I saw the work of visual artists such as Rauschenberg and Robert Morris, who were working with dancers. I saw dance pieces by Yvonne Rainer, Simone Forti, Tricia Brown. There goes the light. Okay. Well, I'll read a little bit more and let it play again, because I can read by the light of the projection. Deborah Hay, Steve Paxson, and Meredith Monk. I went to concerts by Lamont Young, Morton Feldman, Terry Riley, Steve Reich, Philip Glass. I saw the Living Theater and many other wonderful things, so this is just a partial list. At the same time, I wanted to look at sources outside the immediate art world. Perhaps most important was film. Well, I'll just say briefly that in the neighborhood that I lived in, only a few blocks away, was the Anthology Film Archives, begun by Jonas Mikas. And that was a very important place for me. I really wanted to invent my own language, and I was very influenced by early silent Russian, French, German film that I saw at the Anthology Film Archives. Now, so can I have a light, please? So that was my first outdoor piece, and I think next I'll show you, which I haven't really looked at myself. You saw the images of the mirror performances, and frankly, I hadn't thought of until recently re-performing my early work, and I really disagreed with the way the art world took on the idea of re-performance, because it seemed to me it's just like theater. Theater has always been re-performed. I think it's interesting to see early performances, because even if it's not the same thing, you get an idea of what it was. So it's an interesting conversation to have about what to do about performance. Theater has always been re-performed, and so 2 years ago the Guggenheim Museum invited me to do a performance, and it was actually their idea that I re-perform one of the early mirror pieces, and I have to say that I really enjoyed doing it. So I'm showing you this re-performance. I never recorded any of the mirror pieces in any way. I have photographs of them and also a script with some hints. So the way I did this was to take all those memories and records, and then I had to invent something that existed at the time from those fragments. So let's see what we have here. And I'm still working on editing this. So again, it's not the original experience, it's a different experience. And I performed it in the Guggenheim, which was a great, in the large space of the Guggenheim Museum, which was a great place to perform it. And I used the whole museum. I had singers in the ramps above the performance. So I used it in a slightly different way. So it begins with me recreating another, maybe my very first performance before I did anything. I made this mirror costume, and this is a recreation of that mirror costume. And I memorized these lines of Borges, so I'll let you. I owe the discovery of bookworm to the conjunction of a mirror and an encyclopedia. I think it's hard for you to understand. I'm going fast forward because I just want to give you an idea of this performance. And I don't think you can properly hear me reading, but those are all quotes from Borges, which I had memorized originally, but I didn't trust myself in this case to memorize them. To remember, I should say. So now these are the this is So in the original performance, I played that role. And the whole idea was the body is treated like a piece of material, a board, and carried by the performers. And in the original piece, the men actually played the same role. There were two men in the piece, lifting and carrying this one performer from place to place during the performance. And what interested me about mirrors as a kind of disturbing content of this piece was the audience, as you'll see, sees themselves. And mirrors make people uneasy. And also what Borges says about mirrors, mirrors are abominable. That's one of his phrases. And they're monstrous. So mirrors have different functions in different situations. And I had done a workshop at Hunter College, so I asked the students in my workshop, and I kind of passed the word around. So all these are students from Hunter College who are about to appear. It's a very slow piece. Sorry. Any minute now. So we had to work a lot on how to move with the mirrors, because if you move the mirrors too quickly, you can't see the reflection, and the whole point is to see these reflections in the mirrors. So in this case, I was really influenced in a way that you wouldn't know by the films of Busby Berkeley, the 1940s Hollywood films of chorus, fantastic chorus dancing, and I was thinking of that when I was making these pieces. I think I'm going to go fast forward because maybe this one. And I really wanted the women to dress this way because I like the relationship of the mirror to the body, to be able to see the body. just want to say that those were two singers that I worked with in my Dante piece and also the Shape Descent. And when we were talking about, they were on the ramps, and we were saying what songs. I didn't have this singing in the earlier version. There was no sound. There was a poem by David Anton called "What Am I Afraid Of?" And it was a list of the police, a lot of things that one is afraid of. But for this, I didn't have that. I had this singing and, you know, what to sing. So actually that was an improvisation of Nico. I'm sure you all know who that is. A beautiful song by Nico. So I think that that gives you the idea of this. And I'll just quickly, I can go fast forward. You can sort of see them fast. So there's many different improvisations that we worked with. So I found it interesting to redo this piece, I have to say. I enjoyed it. And I'd like to do it again. Those are the performers making that sound, not the singers. All right, so I'm ready. Now, that was a piece that was done actually after the next piece, but it was based on a very early piece. Now I'm going to show you I think first I'll just read a little bit more of my text here. I just wanted to give you a little background in what I've been influenced by. In 1970, I went to Japan and saw Noh Kabuki Theater for the first time. I went with Richard Serra, who was in a show in Tokyo. We spent a month, mostly in Kyoto, looking at the gardens and attending as many Noh Kabuki performances as possible. The highly developed visual vocabulary gave me new inspiration. I was aware of the attraction W.B. Yeats and Ernest Fenollosa had for Eastern poetic forms. I later learned that Mexican rituals and Eastern theater, for similar reasons, had inspired Artaud. This experience informed the work. I translated into my own language the familiar slow pace, the sound and use of wood, the masks, the costumes, and the idea of dance or formalized movement. After this trip to Japan, I began working with the medium of deep landscape space, again interested in altering what is perceived as reality in image and sound. So what I want to show you next is parts of the Shape, Descent, the Feel of Things. And the title of this piece was a line from H.D., the poet that I worked for, Lines in the Sand. But it's based on the writings of Abby Warburg, who, as I said, went to the Southwest in the very last years of the 19th century. And because of my experience seeing the Hopi snake dance, I found this book that was written about Warburg's trip at Katrin David's documented in the bookstore. And I didn't, probably all of you know Abby Warburg. I didn't know who Abby Warburg was at that time, surprisingly. He wasn't so, such a basic figure in American, in the average American's education. But now he's becoming much more known. Anyway, so I was very moved by his text. He had a nervous breakdown 20 years or 25 years after the visit to the Southwest. He never did anything with his experience in the Southwest until he was in a sanitarium in Switzerland. And to demonstrate that he had recovered from his nervous breakdown, he gave a talk to the doctors in the sanitarium about this trip to the Southwest. And it's a really beautiful text. And so I had never, of course, I wouldn't represent the Hopi culture in any way, or any Native American culture, but I could revisit this very powerful experience through Abbie Warburg, through his text. And also, again, the imagery is, it was developed for the space at Dia Beacon, which I imagined as being the sanitarium. And the imagery I imagined to be something that the people in the sanitarium were imagining. So I, again, was not illustrating Warburg, his text. I was just quoting his text orally. So I'll just show you this. I mean, for me it was a very complicated issue, but I was very moved by the Warburg, and it was interesting to revisit this experience. He never saw the snake dance, but he wrote about it. And so the way I developed this piece was to go spend about a year, maybe a year and a half, traveling around the Southwest and videotaping landscape. And I made a version of it in London, actually, of the installation. And then when it became clear that I was doing the performance in Dia Beacon, I brought these backdrops, again, as I explained, to Dia Beacon, and I worked out the piece with Jason Moran, the composer who plays the piano, live in the performance, you'll see. So we spent 6 weeks working on the performance in the space, which is a real luxury for a performance artist. It doesn't happen very often that you have that chance to work in a space that's so fantastic. And irrational animal figure. Sorry, I wanted to start at the beginning. First I want to go. I just, as psychohistorian, I tried to diagnose schizophrenia of Western civilization from its images in an autobiographical reflex. These are all quotes from Warburg. So it's also an intercutting of the live performance with these backdrops. The shape, the scent, the feel of things, the actuality of the present, its bearing on the past, their bearing on the future, past, present, future. These three fourth-dimensional. The room has 4 sides. There are 4 seasons to a year. It is as simple and as inevitable in the building of time sequence as the 4th wall to a room.
I have the sensation of being a seismograph, assembled from the wooden pieces of a plant that has been transplanted from the east into the fertile northern German plains, and onto which an Italian branch was grafted. I let the signs that I received come out of me, because in this epoch of chaotic decline, even the weakest has the duty to strengthen the will to cosmic order.
He practices a cult with the moths and butterflies that fly into his room at night. He speaks to them for hours. He calls them his little soul animals and tells them of his suffering. He recounts the outbreak of his illness to a moth.
The most beautiful butterfly I have ever pinned down suddenly bursts through the glass and dances mockingly upwards into the blue air. Now, I should catch it again, but I am not equipped for this kind of locomotion. Or to be exact, I should like to. My intellectual training does not permit me to do so. I should like, at the approach of our light-footed girl, joyfully to whirl away with her. But such soaring movements are not for me.
Skip ahead. This is a piece of about an hour and 10 minutes long, so I just wanted to show you. So, oops, what happened? I'll show you some more parts of this. So the moving wall, there was a moving screen. There were 3 different positions: the far back of the space, and then the moving screen that came in and out of the space. And I thought of that as a way to alter the space and also to shrink and expand the space.
I devoured entire piles of 19th century Indian novels. It was my way of escaping from an unsettling present. Romance left in my memory by a book. The grotesque richness of pioneer life in the American West. I sniffed at my mother's grave illness like a frightened animal.
Serpent as weather deity. Serpent and lightning shed. American Pompeii. Form of a house. An irrational animal figure. Animal dance. Dance with live serpents. Plateaus. Masses of limestone.